Okay, let's talk about bank deposits. If you've been using QuickBooks Online, you've probably noticed the bank deposit feature. I want to tell you when you should use this feature, why it's important, and when not to use it. I'm going to save that last part for the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for the whole thing. So let's get into it. When should you make a bank deposit? There are a few different situations or scenarios when you should make a bank deposit. The first situation arises from collecting multiple different payments from multiple different customers. Okay, so say you collect 5 checks from 5 different customers, you take those to the bank and you make one bank deposit with those 5 checks. Okay, so that one bank deposit is then going to feed into the QuickBooks Online file as one deposit transaction. Let me show you what I mean. So we've got our sample company here, Craig's Landscape Service, and the transaction we want to focus on right now is this $868.15 received deposit, which is currently uncategorized. Okay, QuickBooks doesn't really know what to do with this transaction. It's recognizing it as a deposit that was received into the bank account, right? Because it's in this received column, but it's uncategorized. We know that we received payments from 5 different customers. We've already recorded these in QuickBooks Online, but let me show you how to do that real quick. So if you needed to record a customer payment, you'd navigate to Sales, Customers. You can either click on the customer you want or go up here to this Invoices tab. Whatever payment you want to receive, you'll do that right here. So we're going to say that Cookies by Kathy paid the $75 invoice. To receive the payment for that, we just click on Receive Payment here. There are about 5 different ways to do every single thing in QuickBooks Online. So there are a few different ways to get to this Receive Payment window. That was just one of the ways you can get there. So she paid with a MasterCard. We want to make sure to deposit this to the undeposited funds account. This is sort of like a holding account for your payments before you make the actual deposit. The amount received was $75. We'll make sure the invoice is checked here so that the payment actually gets applied to the invoice, and then we'll save and close that. Now, back to the banking screen. All right, so we've got our $868.15 deposit. We need to apply all of those check payments to this deposit. So what we'll do is go up here in the left-hand corner to New and select Bank Deposit. So first thing is make sure the deposit is getting deposited into the correct account. In this case, it's the checking account. Also check the date. The date should be the day that the deposit was made. Next, we're going to start checking the boxes for the payments that were made. So the deposit was made up of these first 5 payments here. We've got Duke's, Freeman Sporting Goods, and as you can see, as I'm checking these boxes, the deposit amount is going up. So we've got Travis Walden, Amy's Bird Sanctuary, and then Sushi. So those 5 payments total $1,068.15. But wait, that's not the total we're looking for. So in this case, what happened was we took $200 of that deposit amount and we deposited it into the savings account. So QuickBooks Online will let you do that down here at the bottom. It calls it a cashback. Really, it's just splitting the deposit. So we are going to make sure we identify that $200 went into our savings account. I'll just type in a memo here, savings deposit, and then we'll make sure we type in $200. So what that does to our total, if you just saw that, it decreased our total by $200 that's going into the checking account. This is the number we were looking for, this $868.15. So we can go ahead and save and close the screen. Now what we're going to see back on our bank transaction screen is a match found for that deposit of $868.15. We can go ahead and match that now. And then if we go to our savings account, remember $200 of that deposit was deposited into the savings account. So if we click on the savings account tile, we should also see a match for that $200. Okay, so why do you want to do this? It's so that the transaction on your bank statement matches what you have in QuickBooks. This will be really helpful when it comes time to do your monthly reconciliation. Your deposit amount in QuickBooks Online will match perfectly with your bank statement. Instead of having to go through and add up all those individual individual payments as one deposit. Okay, so now say you have customers who pay electronically into your QuickBooks Online. So maybe they pay with ACH or a credit card, or maybe it's a completely different system. They pay through like Stripe or some other electronic merchant. This bank deposit feature is going to be really helpful in these situations too. So most times when you are accepting electronic payments, you're going to get hit with some kind of merchant fee, like a 3% credit card fee or some other kind of payment processing fee. To make sure that you record your deposit correctly, we're going to go up here to New Bank Deposit. So we're just going to say that this Cookies by Kathy MasterCard payment here, we had to pay a credit card fee in order for them to pay electronically. So what we need to do to make sure the payment is recorded properly and then the fee is recorded as well is check the box here for Cookies by Kathy's payment. That's going to show a total amount of $75, but we didn't actually get $75 into our bank account from Kathy. We got $75 minus the fee. So we're going to say the fee was $2.25. It was a 3% fee. So to record this, we'll use this add funds to this deposit section down here. Make sure to record the customer. The GL account we're going to use for this is going to be some kind of fee expense account. So it might already be set up in your QuickBooks Online file, but it might be something you have to set up. If it is already existing, it might be something called merchant fee. In this case, in this sample company, we're just going to call it a bank charge, but it could be something called credit card payment fee, payment processing fee, merchant processing fee, something along those lines, but it should be an expense account. Next, make sure we put the amount of the fee in here, and it should be a negative amount. And watch as this total of $75 decreases to $72.75. That's what we actually received from the customer. It's important to use this workflow because when we're running our reports and we want to see what our total gross income is, we will actually see that $75 as part of the gross income instead of $72.75. Doing it this way will allow us to see our total income before the fees, and then we'll also be able to track our payment fees. So we can save and close this. And then if that $72.75 had come through as a single deposit into our account, we would actually see that amount received here as well, and we'd be able to match that to the transaction that synced through the bank feed. Another instance when you might use this bank deposit feature is if you receive some kind of income that isn't linked to a customer. So this could be interest received from your bank or a refund or a credit from a vendor. For example, if you overpaid on your business insurance or something like that and they sent you a check back as a refund, you could enter that here. So what you would do is we'd use this add funds to this deposit feature again. Make sure your deposit account is correct. Make sure your date is correct as always. And then you would enter the vendor name, the account, how they paid, in this case a check number, and then the amount of the refund. We'll go ahead and save and close. And then again, in this situation, if we just took that one check to the bank and deposited it by itself, that would also feed through from the online banking into QuickBooks, and we'd be able to match that deposit. If this check was actually deposited with another check, all we do is after we receive the payment from the customer in the customer account, we could go up here and check whatever payment was included in that deposit, and then you'll see the total change up here at the top. So a few things to note when using the bank deposit feature. Number one, make sure that when you are receiving customer payments, you are depositing the payment into that undeposited funds account and not the bank account. Number two, make sure that when you are making a bank deposit in QuickBooks Online, you are checking all of the customer payments together as one deposit and not saving each customer payment as an individual deposit. This will help you at reconciliation time with your bank statement, making sure that the deposit on the bank statement matches the deposit in your QuickBooks Online file. Okay, so as promised, when you should not use the bank deposit feature. So do not use this feature unless you've already recorded the customer payment under the customer account. So what you need to do before the payment will even show up in that bank deposit screen is go into your customer screen, for example, Amy's Bird Sanctuary, and receive the payment in here. When you receive that payment, make sure your deposit to account is the undeposited funds account. Another time you wouldn't use this bank deposit feature is if there was only one single check deposited into the bank account. We'll take this Amy's Bird Sanctuary payment as an example. So say that Amy paid this invoice of $239. We took that one check of $239, we took it to the bank and deposited it as one single check. When that happens, you still could use undeposited funds, but you don't need to. So when you're receiving that payment and you know that you're only making a deposit with one check, you can just deposit it to the checking account and then you can save and close. And what that will do is actually bypass that step of making the bank deposit. So if we go back to bank deposit, we're not going to see that payment in here because we deposited it to the checking account directly. We did not deposit it to the undeposited funds holding account. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any questions or feedback or any other video ideas that you'd like to see a little bit more in depth, please drop those in the comments below and make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.